Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought I'd show some gameplay of the SM.92 and also an ongoing thing that I've had in War Thunder for years, which I'm sure some would see as an exploit or some would see as an issue with the game, and I thought why not highlight it in this video while also talking about this wonderful machine. The SM.92 was one of the only World War II vehicles, apart from some of the naval stuff, which was added to the game in Update 1.87 as, a World War II vehicle. Being a prototype, there's always some interesting stuff about it, and the history behind it is one of those interesting things. But when it comes to gameplay terms, the SM.92 is, in my opinion, one of the best twin-engine fighters that we have in War Thunder when fully upgraded. It has an insane amount of firepower in the form of its machine guns and cannons. It has the ability to be able to carry bombs. It has the ability to dive above 700 kilometers an hour IAS. It has a great climb speed. The only thing that really lets it down is the issue that every heavy fighter has, that it isn't as maneuverable as single engine fighters, at least in most of the time, and the tail turret is, well, useless, I think is the best way of putting it. But I've had a ton of fun flying this thing, spading it out, and I will say one of the only issues I've had with it is while spading it out, it really struggled. It felt heavy before you get those engine upgrades, before you get the flight performance upgrades. So if you are looking to research and modify this thing, make sure to get the flight performance stuff first, and when you do, you'll realize that this thing is a monster. I definitely think it's going to go up in BR pretty soon because of this fact. Now, as you can see, there's a dot on the screen. That dot is a plane, and I can see it through clouds. This, I think, is because of a combination of my graphical settings and my post-effects settings. I've been able to replicate this in many different areas with many different settings, and technically I shouldn't be able to see this person that I'm going towards here. There's also a guy to the right. Now yes, I am going into some bright light, but I can still see that dot, and I know for a fact that it's an enemy because of its movement on my screen. Now that enemy, maybe if he has the same graphical settings as me, can see me coming towards him. But if he doesn't, which is going to be the more likely scenario, is this an unfair advantage? I'm able to spot this enemy through the clouds, I'm able to go past him, I'm able to see him and hear him and get on his tail before he even knows I exist. Now in this case it's a Halifax, and I can just tear into him with the 20mm with the machine guns that the SM.92 has on offer, and at this point I'm still not targeted. I still haven't technically targeted him, he can't see me either, but he is under distress and he is going down. So because of this fact, I've been able to dispatch an enemy who could not see me, but I could see him. Now, should this be seen as an unfair advantage, or should this be seen as something which, for me, is just part and parcel with the game when it comes to graphical settings? For me, in my opinion, I do think it is an unfair advantage, which is why I'm highlighting it here, so more people can understand that yes, you can abuse clouds, you can abuse post-effects and graphical settings in order to see enemies. You can even see now, near that P-47, there are a bunch of dots which are not seen by, allies. Now they are, but before, they weren't, but I could still see the dots through the clouds. And this is why it can feel sometimes that if you are just sat in the clouds trying to set up maybe a 2-on-1 or a 1-on-1 situation with a plane, somebody just comes out of nowhere, knows exactly where you are, and annihilates you. It's because of this, and it's because of these specific settings. Now going back to the SM.92, the stock grind, as I said, is an issue, but once you get past that, you realize that this thing has an insane climb rate, has a wonderful elevator, and is able to force bombers to be annihilated by its will. The way I fly this thing is I generally climb to around 4,000 to 5,000. Since it gets an air spawn, you can only do this before the majority of other players because of the power of the engines, and from there, what I'm able to do is kill a bomber, and after that, or kill an attacker at that altitude. Then, after that, I stay at said altitude and force 2-on-1 situations with help from the BF-109s, from the C-205s, from whatever other fighters are in the situation. Because even though I'm personally incredibly confident in the SM-92 and its ability to annihilate other planes, by the time you have attacked that bomber, or by the time you have individually gone after the attacker and been successful or not successful, your fighters will be at your level, so why not force individual situations? Now, another thing I talked about, dive speed. This thing has great war emergency power, it's got great guns, not really showing them off there too well because I can't shoot straight, but as you can see, even from range, this BF-109 thinks he can get away, and yes, I miss a lot of shots, I'm definitely rusty, but that doesn't mean that the 20mm MG151s cannot finish off a target. So that's already 2 people down. We haven't really done a lot. All we've done is go after a target we weren't supposed to be able to see, then we supported our allies and went after one which was about to annihilate an ally. That's it. And already, that's 2 kills on the SM-92. Now, there are a few other twin-engine aircraft in the game, which also are very fun to fly. The Hornet is one of them. The Me-410 B6R3 is a little bit less nowadays, but it's still fun. The Do 335, even some of the Japanese machines, the Ki-83 for example, fill very similar roles as the SM-92, but none feel as maneuverable as the machine that you see before you. None feel as flexible because of the fact that they don't have that crazy elevator and also the rudder. So at this moment in time, this match is pretty much won, right? There is not really a lot going on the battlefield. It's been about 7 minutes. The majority of the enemy team is dead, so it's just time to get the stragglers. And the way to do that, as a player, is to make sure to, well, when stuff is spotted, go after them, which is what I'm doing in this against this VB-1002. Another machine which does have 2 engines on board, but let's say doesn't have the same capabilities as the SM-92 because of its speed and also because of its heavy wing nature. What is nice about the 92 is the fact that everything is mounted in the center, meaning that the roll rate is a lot higher than some other conventional machines where they have guns in the wings. At least that seems to be how it works in War Thunder. As you can see, we are cruising at 760 kilometers an hour, which without even really having to worry. This thing can go up to 800 kilometers an hour, and it even has dive brakes or general brakes to be able to slow you down. So if you're trying to get away from an enemy, you can push it as hard as you want and hope that, you have an ally which comes to save you, but at the end of the day, you can just keep pushing this aircraft. You can keep going. And another thing on top of that, which does screw with the stock performance, but it isn't really noticeable when you're fully upgraded, which is what I am in this video, is the fuel. So you might see that the fuel is incredibly high on this vehicle, and this is a double-edged sword. So it means that it makes you dive better, because technically you're heavier, and I'm running minimum load, by the way. But the other one is the fact that it makes you a little bit more sluggish when you are at lower speeds. So you've got to try and work around that, and on top of it, because of the ammunition load that's on board, the fact that you can take bombs, you can easily make this thing incredibly heavy. The engines themselves, there does seem to be a bug with them, where if they take one shot from anything, the propeller dies and the engine dies. So hopefully that's fixed in the future, because there is no way that a single 7.62 should be able to take out these engines. It just seems completely crazy to me. But with the fuel issue, it does mean that you can stay in the air as long as you want, and also, because you have a ton of ammunition on board, you can elongate fights as much as you want. So if you see a situation where you don't feel 100% about it, and there isn't another ally involved, what you can do is simple. You can just break off, you can try something different, you can move on from that situation, and make sure to come out on top. So in this video, I hope I've made the case, the positive case of the SM-92. I believe people should give this thing a go. If you don't like twin-engine fighters, well, you can always just play the other Italian fighters at the same time, and also the issue of the cloud stuff. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, Dyslexic Child, Martinez, Matati, Moxie, Nito, Nick Graham, Alobralo, and Super Cacti for supporting me on Patreon.